I'm cool, I'm cocky, I'm bad. This is Mark Bell from SuperTraining.tv, Super Training Gym, the strongest gym in the West. Hey peeps, Power Project Army, do me a favor, go on powerliftingwatch.com, scroll down a little bit and click on Super Training Gym as the powerlifting gym of the year. We've won it before, but why not dominate the world and take over? Anyway, we got some stuff to get to here at the Power Project today, brought to you by HowMuchYouBench.net and the only strength magazine in the world, thepowermagazine.com. We are going to talk today about the Hypertrophy and winning the Hypertrophy and holding it over your head proudly. Gaining muscle mass is what we're talking about, hypertrophy training. I've had a lot of questions in regards to this, so I figured I'd hammer it out in kind of one thing here. Somebody asked about German volume training, my thoughts on it. German volume training is awesome. I was made aware of German volume training through Charles Poliquin, who, incidentally, is in the middle of writing an article for Power Magazine, thepowermagazine.com. German volume training is brutal training. It's a lot of volume, a huge amount of volume. It's 100 reps. It's 10 sets of 10 of the same exercise. So you do like 10 sets of 10 in a squat with say like 225 or something. Doesn't sound like a lot, but holy crap, does it hurt. Charles Poliquin's also a big fan of tempo training, and that is how I myself have built up a lot of muscle mass. I do not look like a bodybuilder or a pro bodybuilder by any means. These guys have a lot more muscle mass than me, packed into a much shorter frame. However, hypertrophy training can be extremely beneficial. I think a lot of people don't think that bodybuilding can apply to sports, and they're absolutely wrong. It certainly can. Bodybuilding movements, the thought process from a bodybuilder can clearly be applied. Even the nutrition from bodybuilders is a lot of times it's outstanding. A lot of that can be applied to, in fact, bodybuilders are usually so far ahead of the curve, that's usually where everybody else gets their information from, whether it be drugs, diet, or training. Anyway, I don't know why the community has gotten bashed so much over the years. Maybe it's due to the S word, but the community's gotten bashed over the years, and a lot of people don't think that these movements are functional, which doesn't make any sense. How can there be a non-functional movement that your body can do? I don't understand it really. Do you? Can somebody tell me that a bicep curl is not functional? I don't know why it wouldn't be functional. Some people say don't train your biceps. Why? If you don't want a big bench, then don't bother training your biceps, I guess. Bench pressing can be made easier. I don't care who you are, or how big or how small your arms are, and how much weight you're lifting. If you have a bigger arm, it can be a stronger arm. Making yourself bigger can make things easier. You can create better leverages. That's why guys get fat. But you can also accomplish a similar thing by getting more jacked, so you can have the best of both worlds. And what I advise a lot of you guys out there, especially you young guys, get around experienced powerlifters. Get around experienced bodybuilders. If you're a powerlifter, try to find some bodybuilders to share some information with. If you are a bodybuilder, try to find some powerlifters to share some information with. There's a lot of crossover there. But anyway, back to hypertrophy training. The thought process of a bodybuilder to try to contract their muscles as hard as they possibly can is something that I encourage all of you to try to do. Now, if you're a strength athlete, powerlifter, strongman, whatever the case is, do your normal strength training session, 1 or 2 barbell movements the way you normally would do them, and after that, focus on hypertrophy and winning the hypertrophy. So, do your normal training, then after that, work on some hypertrophy work. What is hypertrophy work? How do you do it? It's usually, there's a lot of different ways to go about doing it. There's drop sets, there's supersets. All these methods have been tried and true, have worked over and over again. 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 12, 3 sets of 15, 3 sets of 20 even, things like that. 4 sets, 5 sets. But the main thing is that you attack the muscle and that you try to really stimulate. Now, you don't want to annihilate because you'll be sore for too long and you're only as good as your recovery. However, don't always worry about making yourself sore, because you are going to get sore. So don't think to yourself, oh, I'll back off on that because, I don't want to get too sore. If you don't want to get too sore, then stay at home on the couch. But there's going to be a certain amount of sets that are going to need to be done in order for you to gain size. Lee Haney used to say, stimulate, don't annihilate. So make sure that you're tapping into those muscle fibers, and once you feel like you can't move, a good rule of thumb is once you start to decrease your strength by about 5%, you move on to the next exercise. What is 5%? If you don't have a calculator, 5% is usually about 1 rep. So if you're doing 3 sets of 10 on the last set, you only do 8, time to move on to something else. Even if you're only in the second set, and that happens, you only do 8 reps or only do 9 reps, it's time to probably move on to something else. Or perhaps try to match the same amount of reps for the next set or something like that. But make sure you're pushing yourself. You're going to have to push yourself hard. A lot of the stuff from Charles Poliquin was tempo related, where he's doing kind of a slow eccentric. You see a lot of bodybuilders do this, and I'm sure they're not really counting in their head how many seconds they're going down, but that's something that Charles would prescribe to people. But they are going at a certain tempo, a certain pace. They are bringing the weights down in a controlled manner and then flexing, contracting, and doing the concentric motion, usually in about a 1 to 3 second range. But usually the lowering phase is sometimes double that, sometimes 4 to 6 seconds. So you want to lower the weight under control, get your mind focused in on whatever area it is you're working, your chest, your triceps, your shoulders, whatever the case may be. And make sure you're making that mind-muscle connection, and make sure that you're focused in and you're trying to really stimulate those muscles for muscle growth. I always suggest about anywhere between 8 to 12 sets of a few different exercises, anywhere between 3 to 5 exercises. You don't need to, one mistake I think a lot of people make is they think they need to get to everything all the time. And you really don't. If you did a lot of bench pressing in 1 week, you probably don't need to do a ton of overhead work, and vice versa. You're still nailing that interior delt, and you're still smashing upon it. So I think we got a little visitor here.
Yeah. Which one do you press?
Let's see. Push that one. I think that was the right button. So I advise all of you out there to try some hypertrophy training. Get those muscles bigger. A bigger muscle a lot of times can be a stronger muscle. Bodybuilding movements and being bigger, being more jacked can certainly apply to your sport. It can apply to any sport. Look at some of the behemoths that you see that are playing on Sundays, that are playing in the NFL. These guys are jacked. You look at guys like Adrian Peterson. He doesn't get that way just from doing a couple power cleans here and there every week, or just running on a track. He gets that way by training hard. So get yourself in the gym and get yourself jacked. Utilize the jacked and tan method and win that hypertrophy. That is it from supertraining.tv.